Well, hello everybody, Mike Rondo here, and I'm going to give you a review that's, 50, 60 years too late? And none of you asked for it, but I'm going to do it anyway because why the hell not? I'm going to do a review of, because I had a Creature Double feature with my daughter last night. So this is coming from a father who grew up watching these classic monster movies, and his daughter's getting interested in monster movies, haunted houses, and in horror in general. So we got to start slow because she's kind of a scaredy cat. And so we started with basically a Creature Double feature, which was something my generation was big on. We had Creature Double features all the time. Channel 56 here in Rhode Island. That was a great time. I love that. So anyway, we're gonna do we ended up watching two movies, as you know, it is implied, double feature. We started with The Mummy because she likes ancient Egypt, mummies, and all that stuff, and so we started with that. And the funniest thing of the whole thing was the lady that plays Helen, I think it is. Let me just real quick look this up. It was really funny because here we go. Her name is Zita Johanna, I think, and she's a stunning woman. And my daughter said, "Oh, she's pretty, she's beautiful." But the words out of her mouth next were rather amusing. I wasn't expecting it. She goes, "She needs a bra. She's got her boobs showing." Like, they weren't really showing, but there was a plunging neckline, if you will. So it was very revealing, to say the least. And I just thought that was hilarious that that's what she thought. I didn't realize my daughter was so conservative with her dress, which is fine with me. So she was concerned about that. She's like, she's got no bra. She's got her boobs are showing. She's got to cover up and whatnot. But she thought she was very beautiful, and I'll get into that again when we get to Julie Adams there, because my daughter thought she was absolutely stunning as well, which she must be like her father. She finds the classic ladies of movies and film to be absolutely gorgeous. But anyway, on to the movie. So, me, haven't seen The Mummy since I was about my daughter's age. I think the last time I saw that was probably 10, 9 or so. It wasn't one of my favorite monster movies, but Boris Karloff does a phenomenal job. I forgot how good he was as like a monster, and I tricked my daughter. I said, "Do you know that voice sounds familiar?" And she couldn't think of it, and then I finally told her, "Well, it's from The Grinch, the narrator from The Grinch," which I love the original Grinch. She doesn't. She says, "Well, I don't like that one too much. I prefer the live action one." And I said, "Well, I'm going to disown you, so you can just leave now." Kidding, obviously, but that's what she likes. So she was just amazed by that. She really enjoyed the movie, and I got to say, for a movie that was made in 1932, right, and that is just, it held up. I was very surprised, and my daughter had to get used to the black and white, but she really liked it. And I said, "So what do you think of it?" She goes, "Well, it was cheesy in a sense, but it was good." And that's what's great about those classic monster movies is, yeah, by today's standards, they're kind of almost tongue-in-cheek and kind of goofy. But it really was, the story wasn't that bad. We'll get into the Black Lagoon in a second, but the story wasn't too bad. I thought it was really well, considering. I think it wasn't as bad as, it was probably better than the Tom Cruise Mummy thing that we had a few years ago, right? This one was on par with the Brendan Fraser Mummy, so to speak. That one more enjoyable because it's modern and up to date and somewhat. But this, for the time, it was kind of, I'm picturing in my mind, I'm like, this is ahead of its time in a lot of ways. And of course, when I think about it, this lady with the plunging neckline and the short hair was well ahead of her time by several decades, really. Of course, it was Hollywood, so they were pushing the envelope, right? You just didn't see that much. And it was funny that my daughter picked up on, her plunging neckline and stuff. It wasn't really bad. By today's standards, it's very tame. But I thought the acting was pretty good. Now, it's wooden, so to speak, and it would probably throw some people off. It didn't bother my daughter. She was just like, some of it was a bit over dramatic, but that's how it was back then. And it reminded me of the prequel trilogy, because I don't think George ever said this, where he was going for that wooden soap opera, old Hollywood dialogue, where it was kind of wooden and kind of direct and a little over the top, and not like today where it's a more natural kind of flow of acting. And that's what I think threw a lot of people off when they saw the prequels, and that's why they were turned off by it. I said that on the Cantina Cast many, many times. But The Mummy was pretty good, and I recommend any of you guys to go back and watch it, especially if you have kids. Watch it with them. I think I hit the perfect age at 9, 10, and 11 and 12. If I got to the 13, 14, 15, 16, I don't think it would have resonated with her. She wouldn't have liked it as much, I don't think. But my daughter's kind of unique like me. She's big into movies. She's big into going back and watching old things. You know, she just did a marathon of Saved by the Bell, the old ones. Now she's watching The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, I think it is. So she goes back to the Wayback Machine, and she kind of watches those old things and stuff, and Scooby-Doo. So I've kind of trained her to be kind of classically trained in the old film stuff, because she wants to be a director, and I hope she achieves that goal, because that's what I wanted to be when I was younger. Spielberg and George Lucas and others inspired me so much as a kid, sparked my imagination. I wanted to do that, but then, you know, you get older, life happens, and you let go of that dream or don't think it's possible, which was a shame in the end. But she's a fan of that, and this was a great way to introduce her into the horror genre. She happened to catch, you know, she knows Michael Myers, she knows Freddy, she knows Jason, and those kind of scare, she gets nervous. Although Michael Myers is not so bad with her, she kind of, it's almost like a gimmick now with her. She's kind of, it really scares her, and to be honest, Pennywise always scared the crap out of me too. I remember 14 years old, that opening scene with Georgie in the sewer and their sharp teeth. I was like, yeah, I'm out. I don't like clowns to begin with, so I was, ever since Poltergeist, so my brother freaking me out with that. That freaked me out. But in any case, so she really enjoyed it. I said, what did you think? She goes, well, it's very cheesy, campy, fun, horror, adventure, and a bit of a mystery. So she really liked it, because she's like me. She likes a mystery, a bit of, you know, it's that classic horror that's just fun to watch, you know what I mean? It's not like you have to think about it. You don't have to think about what the killer's coming from, the point, this, that, and the other. And I was showing her, there are a few scenes like where you're walking and you can see where it translated later on in the 70s and 80s with the horror, the point of view of the killer looking and the way they would film certain angles. It was just fun to go back and see that. But anyway, I do recommend seeing The Mummy from 1932. I really enjoyed it. I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, and I think it holds up for an enjoyable film for an hour and I think 25 minutes or something. If you get that long of a time to kill and you want to watch something classic like that, I mean, sometimes it doesn't. It's so great to just sit down and watch an old classic black and white like that, and it was just a lot of fun. So moving on to my personal favorite, The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Now, my daughter knows about The Creature from the Black Lagoon because I talk about it randomly quite a bit, especially around Halloween. I play the pinball. That's my favorite pinball game, is the Creature from the Black Lagoon. I completely suck at it, but she played it, the VR one. She loves playing that. And so she was really like, well, I got to see this movie with you. I got to see this movie with you. So I waited till now to see it with her. And she absolutely loved it. She loves Julie Adams. Did I pronounce? Yeah, it's Julia Adams. Julia Adams, excuse me. I always say Julie. Julia Adams thought she was absolutely stunning. Loved her, and she is. That's stunning. And sadly, she recently passed away with 2019. 92 years old. That's awesome. But she absolutely enjoyed it. Thought it was a bit, it was funny watching it with her. You know, at certain scenes, you know, she would yell out, "Don't go in there." And her thing that stood out with her was like, "Why are you leaving the girl alone? Go back to Kate," because they left her a few times by herself, and she was getting annoyed by this. Like, she's like, "What are you guys doing? You're so aloof." And it's funny because I'm watching it, and I'd watched it like last week, and one thing I noticed was in the beginning where the campers get killed, where the main guy goes back and brings the fossil to the institute or whatever, the creature comes up, or Gillman, if you will, and kills everyone in the camp. And it was just funny. They came, they saw it, they were horrified, but then nobody knows what happens. It's like it was so nonchalant. They started getting to dig and all that other stuff. Like a few people die, and it was like, whatever, and they moved on. It wasn't like any tragic thing. It was just so funny, very campy. The special effects, as I talked to my daughter, I asked her, I go, well, what do you think of the effects? She goes, well, it was very cheesy and, definitely outdated. And she's like, and I talked to her, I said, well, for that time, that was in 1954, The Black Lagoon, and The Mummy was in 1932, and the makeup and all that. Of course, being in black and white kind of helps it a bit because you can kind of hide things. They were ahead of their time, really, to be honest. I thought it was great when you think about how movies are made now when you're older, and where we've come CGI and stuff, and you see some practical effects. They did some amazing work back in the day because they had the suit underwater, and it really worked. And then, of course, there were a few scenes you can see where they were going for the 3D thing because it was shot in 3D, and you could see like the bubbles, and certain times with the creature you could see it and stuff. And of course, I thoroughly enjoyed the pipe smoking in the creature from the Black Lagoon. And I'm actually smoking Scarecrow by Warped and Cornell and Deal. And it's pretty good. And I figured this was perfect for this. And yes, my flame is a little too big. But I thought the acting was better in The Creature from the Black Lagoon than The Mummy. Of course, it's, almost a decade or two later. The acting was better. The effects were better. And it was funny. It was a pretty progressive film in a way. There was some of that 1950s, men's chivalry, kind of protect the woman at points, but of course they left her alone all the time, half the time, which is why she got kidnapped and stuff, and they were protecting her. But she was Kate's character, Julie's character, Kate, was very much a progressive character in the sense she was educated, she was smart, she was resourceful. She wasn't exactly the damsel in distress. I mean, she did get kidnapped and whatnot, and it was playing on that, of course, for the times. That's how it was going, but still, seeing a woman like that, she was a stronger character than what I remembered as a kid. Like, as a kid, I remember, it's the damsel in distress kind of thing. But there was more to her than I thought, which I thought was pretty cool, considering it was 1954. But it's a hell of a movie, and the reason why, and I'll get into it here, why I love The Creature so much, is because he's an outlier in the Universal monsters, right? He's not, I guess him and the Invisible Man are kind of the two that kind of, stick out in a way, because they're not like the other traditional Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein, the Mummy, and whatnot. But The Creature is definitely, we've heard the Invisible Man before. The Creature is a completely outlier. He's an oddball like I was as a kid, and I think that's why I latched onto him. I usually typically gravitate towards the outcasts of society or the character that looks different than everybody else. And The Creature was that, and I just clung to The Creature when I was a kid. I was such a fan. It was such a different look and whatnot, and to this day, still, it was a very enjoyable. And I was actually surprised when I saw it by myself, and when I saw it with my daughter last night, that film, again, a classic black and white. And this is probably why they're a classic. They can still be played today and enjoyed mostly. Again, I think this one would be preteens and teenagers would enjoy this one a little bit more than The Mummy. I think The Mummy had a better story, though. I think The Mummy, had more depth to it. This was more, surprisingly, it wasn't the typical, what I remembered as a kid. It wasn't like they went off, the creature tries to kidnap the girl all the time. There was a bit more to it than what I remember, and it was it was a fun night at the movies with the Rondo household with the Creature double feature. And I'm curious what your favorite Universal monsters are. I know I asked a few people what their Universal monster were, and I had a few comments on my picture that I posted the other day, so by all means, continue that discussion here. But it was just a fun time, and I asked my daughter, which one did you like more? And she got a little shy. She was like, well, I like The Mummy a little bit more. And I can see that. It had a better story, honestly. I think it had more depth to it. But For me, I still got to go with the old classic, The Creature from the Black Lagoon. I suggest you guys all watch it this Halloween and see what you guys think about it. Just go, or any of them. Invisible Man, which is on my list to watch as well. Dracula, you know, Frankenstein. Just go and watch those and see how you feel about it and what you would think of today versus then and all that stuff. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys enjoyed this review that you didn't want. Nobody really wanted, but anyway, I did one anyway. So cheers to you. I will see you guys on the next video.